You are now listening to Out of the Blank.
Welcome to another episode of Out of the Blank podcast. I'm here with Austin Haslam.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Austin, tell me a little bit about yourself and what do you do professionally?
So, 28 in March, 27 currently, March 17th, so St. Patrick's Day, baby. If anyone listening is one of those, you're a winner in my book. So I've just done a lot of different stuff through my short life, and I've worked at a farmer's market when I was like 12 until I was like 16 or 17, and then I got into the food industry with restaurants and worked at Noah's Bagels, at Einstein Bagels for anyone listening on the East Coast. Then kind of just have always liked to cook, but just kind of eventually I got into a professional kitchen, and it kind of steered me the wrong way, and I was like, I don't know if I want to do this, and then just kind of had another couple of years of working in the restaurant industry, and then I ended up working in the e-cigarette industry here in the Bay Area, California, and then did that for a few years. And then worked at a pet store for a few months, and then actually met my current boss that I work with now there as a customer. And right now, Monday through Friday, I do pet care. It's like dog walks and cat care and all that good stuff.
Been all over the business.
Yeah, kind of done a lot of different things. Obviously there's a lot more I could do, but just trying to find one thing to really dial in on and make it happen. Obviously that's the pizza and food thing right now, but
Yeah, so is this something that you're getting like super interested into to just spark this journey up recently? Because you make pizzas, and I think when we say make pizzas, everyone thinks of the common Domino's or Papa John's place, just working back there wearing a hat and going on those stoner delivery calls at 2 o'clock in the morning. But you do something a little bit different using an oven. Not like the typical pizza you'd buy in a store like Red Baron or something, but more of a exotic, like fresh dough, all that type.
I guess you could say it's just artisan, just really the way that I do things. And so it's really funny. So I actually worked at a place called Mary's Pizza Shack, which is like a small chain in California. And they're pretty damn good food for being a chain. Obviously it's not like, a white tablecloth, super nice Italian place you're going to take, but it's like, if you can imagine the diner equivalent of like a family Italian place, that's kind of how it was. And they did pretty good pizzas, and got a little bit of experience making pizza there. But then after that job, I did the vapor industry for a while. And it's really interesting because what really got me I've always liked to cook. And like I said, I thought I was going to be a chef for majority of my life. And then I kind of strayed from that for a little bit. But it's just, my love of cooking started with fried chicken. Is actually Korean or like Chinese/Korean fried chicken wings, because I was doing Uber and Lyft for a little bit, and there was this restaurant in San Francisco, and I forget the name of it, but they're like famous for their wings. And I tried their wings when I was Ubering out there one day, and I was like, oh, these are so good. But wings are expensive. Like, you go to Wingstop, you go anywhere else, like they're fucking expensive. It's like you're paying like $18-20 for a 10 or 15 piece of wings. And so what happened is I wasn't making a whole lot of money at the time, or after the Uber thing, I wasn't making a whole lot of money. And it just kind of like sparked my interest of like, well, maybe I'll try making it at home. And that really opened it up to be like, wow, like if you put effort into cooking at home, you really don't need to go out. I know that sounds like no duh, but like, our culture has so drifted away from cooking at home, and it's all about convenience and DoorDash and fast food and all this stuff. And, it really reawakened.
We live on a time schedule now. It's all about time basis. Everything has to be right now, right now, right now. And it's like,
yeah,
if we took more time to actually enjoy an event or be about something, whether it's a home craft or anything, like you're starting to see a bunch of artisan stuff start to spark up, because people are noticing the fun that they're getting out of it. I mean, half the time you come home, what's the first thing you want to do? You just want to shut off and go to bed or something. You want to relax. You don't want to be doing anything. But we're seeing a lot of people now where they're being at home a lot more, only because, job qualities, whether like they're getting scheduled for hours or whether they're losing a job and trying to find something to do. When you spend more time at home, this is why people pick up baking, pick up cooking, because you get to start figuring out a whole thing that you've totally lost out of touch with, and that's experiencing cooking in general.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way of saying it because we, for instance, like I love animals. I have 3 cats and a dog. 2 of my cats and my dog are in the room with me right now. And then the other one just heard me talk about cats, and here she comes. But we've gotten like I feel we are so disconnected from our food source, and the reason why I'm mentioning animals is because of that. Because like I love my animals. I feel bad for eating animals. I think that we could all eat less meat. Like my number one pet peeve, like I don't care if you want to waste your money on food and then waste, or spend your money on food and then waste the food that you bought with your money, whatever. It just gets to me when it's a meat product or a dairy product because I'm like, an animal had to, suffer for that essentially. And that's just, it just gets me. And so like I'm a huge believer that because we are so disconnected from our food, if you're the type of person that could, not necessarily that you have to have done this, but you have to be willing to be able to do this in terms of like, if you can't kill an animal, harvest it, eat that meat because you think that's too gross, then you shouldn't be eating meat. I know that's kind of like extreme kind of way of looking at it, but it just goes back to we are so disconnected from our food. And I feel like that's what cooking has really gotten me is like that kind of understanding of food and more where it comes from, how to cook it and the culture behind, different cuisines. Like it's really funny. I realized over the last year that I really like French cooking. There's a lot of French techniques that I really like and a lot of different things. And with pizza, I do what's called a poulish, and which is a pre-ferment. And so I don't really need to get into the details of it right now. But I was looking up some stuff about bread, and lo and behold, it's a French technique. And I'm like, oh, full circle coming back with the French cooking, and I could go on about it, but it's just, I really think that we are so disconnected from our food. And if more people cook, they would realize how easy it is. They would realize how much better it tastes, how much cheaper it is, and just it can really bring your whole family together. If like, especially if you have like a kid, if you have kids, or if you're a wife, if you're a husband, you like to cook and you like to bring your partner, like I said, your kids into it. Like it's just, I just think cooking is so lost, and it's something that anytime I see any hint of it kind of coming back to the mainstream, like those meals that you can buy, like the ones that like you semi cook at home, like the meal, I'm talking about, like the Blue Apron or whatever, like
the pre-prep. See, the thing is, what you're trying to hit at, which I can understand completely, and I've talked about it a few times, is the fact is when you start trying to sacrifice convenience, you miss out on experience. The whole thing
totally.
is food was meant. What happened back in the day? We used to sit down with our family members and used to eat at our dinner table when you were a kid, right? You sat there, whoever your parents sat on either side of the table. You sat across from if you had a sibling or something, or you sat there and you guys sat and figured out what was going on in the day. They'd ask you how school went. You just, oh, it's okay. Oh, how are your grades doing? You got all the information. That is completely gone now. People that are in their 20s, people that are growing up now, they're not going to know what that's like to sit with their family and eat, because of the fact is, if you do have parents that are at home, they're working already. They have to go out and do stuff. Usually a single mother with 4 kids or something works 3 different jobs, doesn't have the ability or the time to really be able to cook a home prep meal and then give it to their kids and sit down and talk to them for an hour. It doesn't happen anymore. This is where you're going to start seeing mental health problems start to incline.
Well, yeah, and even if it's not a single mother, I mean, even if it's not a single parent, whether it's a mother or father, I mean, if you just look at most, there used to be like 9 to 5. That's what a lot of adults would work who had kids and that kind of stuff. And now it's like it's 8 to 7 now or something like that. Or even if your work is 9 to 5, you're leaving at 7 or 7:30 in the morning because of traffic. Like I live in the Bay Area, traffic is awful. Like the average commute in the Bay Area is an hour and a half each way. Not each way, no, total. Hour and a half total, I think, each day that people in the Bay Area drive, if not more. And some people drive an hour and a half one way just to get to work. And it's like, if you work a 9 to 5 and your commutes, let's say it's an hour with traffic, and it's an hour home. So you leave you have to be there at 9, you leave at 8, and then you get there at 9, and then you're off at 5, and then you don't get home until probably 6:30. And then it's like,
You don't have any time for your family.
Yeah, and then you, as adults, I'm sure you realize this too. It's like there's so much stuff to do. Like one of my favorite things, like I love playing video games, right? But the funniest thing to me is that I remember being a kid, because I've played games my whole life, is like looking or listening to like older gamers, people who are my age, maybe a little bit older, and who like, were married, maybe had a kid, and they would be like, I just don't have time to play video games. And I didn't get that. I was like, what? How do you not have time to play video games? Like, you're an adult, like, you know what I mean? And then it's like you become an adult and you're like, oh, because you just don't have time.
The one thing I really regret about video games back when I was a kid is the fact is I missed out on so much shit that I really want to be able to do with my family now. Like there were
Like what?
so many times like going out to a restaurant and shit. I remember complaining, I don't want to leave the house. I got a Call of Duty game I want to play. Dude, I would kill to go out to eat with my grandparents again, man. I'm telling you. I saw her the other day, they're getting older and I'm older obviously, but it's like I want those moments back. Like we got moments. Most of my childhood was playing video games, so a lot of my memories came from that. It got me through some tough times for sure, and it was definitely fun and kept me like occupied. But you missed out on those experiences too. I remember going to Fridays and freaking being able to chat with my family, like, hey, what's all going on? My grandmom's like, well, this happened at work today at the college. And then we just start going off and being able to get lost in conversation. You don't even see that when you go out to a restaurant anymore. Half the time, little kids on the phone.
On their phone or on their iPad. Kids, mom just, here's an iPad, shut up.
Yeah, and it's I don't want to say that it's really dumb parenting, but it's more like there's going to be moments, especially that they're going to miss when they get older. I never understood what that meant until I used to hear it all the time. Like, you're going to miss these when you get older. You're going to look back on these moments. And I'm like, okay. And now I'm getting older and I'm like,
right.
I'm spending a lot of time, like, I'm at home or something. And next thing I know, I'm just like kind of thinking, I'm like, damn, remember those times we used to go out to eat and actually get lost in a conversation?
Yeah, no, I mean, I've always had an interesting relationship with my family, and like it's just, my parents are great. They've done everything they could to take care of, they've done more than they needed to on many occasions to, help my brother and save my brother and I and all that kind of stuff. But even then, it's like I just never really had, like, after like third or fourth grade, my relationship with my relationship with my family just kind of like went downhill, I guess I'll say, and it's like I said, like my parents are great people, both my mom and my dad, they're still together. They gave me a great idea of like what family and love and all that kind of stuff should be. But it's just, it's like when you love your parents, but like, you only want to hang out with them in certain like short bursts.
Yeah, well, dude, I had two parents that worked DJs and radio jobs. So they worked during the day and they worked at night. So a lot of the
Yeah.
time, like, they only had a couple hours home. My dad only had like 3 or 4 hours home. And in that time, he slept. He did try and spend time, but he made sure I always had like a nice, good meal. Like, you want a steak sub or something? I'm like, nah, man, go to the dollar store and get me a chicken sandwich. I'm more than happy to eat that, because you'll eat anything at that age. But when it comes to the factor of, though, we live in a world that has this idea that now not even working a 9 to 5 is not enough. You have to work these crazy hours, and now you have to get another job on top of that because it's just not paying. It's not paying the bread, man.
You have to work a 9 to 5 and have a side hustle that takes up your time that you might use with your kids instead.
Exactly. Now, where did you find the fascination though when it came to just pizza? Like, that's a very specific. Like, you're learning a bunch of different techniques and being interested into the French industry. You think you would drive a little bit more that way?
Well, it's interesting. So like I got the fried chicken down. I actually did that at a couple private events. It went off really well, and then I had a really bad experience on the last event that I did because the person that was supposed to help me out really screwed me over that day. And then like my power went out when I was doing half the prep, and like it was just really bad. And so that day kind of demotivated me, and I kind of didn't do anything food for a while. And then creepy Facebook targeted ads or whatever showed me this product called an uni, which was like the wood pellet grills, like Traegers and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So it was a wood pellet powered pizza oven. And I was like, huh. And so I ended up I got an Amazon credit card because like it was kind of just all worked out. So like I had one of those, or no, wait, no, I'd gotten a, I work, like I said, I do pet care. And so during the holidays, a lot of my regular clients will give me, some good money, gifts and that kind of stuff. And so I had like $100 Amazon card, and I was like, oh, okay. Like that takes the price down from 300 to like $200. And okay, like I can justify that. And then that got me started on it. And then, you join the pizza group, the Uni group on Facebook, and then they recommend other groups. And I just started looking up like wood-fired pizza. And I just got really fascinated by it. And like, I've always enjoyed New York style pizza the most out of every style. Like a good thin crust New York with a nice sauce, good amount of cheese. Like it's just,
This is important. This is a very important topic you just hit on. How do you like your pizza? Because everyone likes it differently. Like you were talking about before, even with the whole, you got to know the process of what you're putting on your food, especially when you're going to dump meat all over it. That's one thing that does insane. Meat lovers pizza. Everyone goes insane with that, but I guarantee you none of those people have hunted. Me, I am a big when it comes to any of the main chains, like if you're going to order pizza from somewhere, I
Mhm.
prefer Domino's pizza only because they mix oregano in their crust.
I think it's not in the crust. It's a garlic butter around the crust, which probably has herbs and spices. You know what I mean?
Because I dump oregano on my salad and it makes it taste exactly like Domino's pizza crust. And that's why
That's
I
funny.
use
Yeah.
oregano every day.
Well, oregano is a really great seasoning, and it's one of those that's so well known. Like when you smell that, most people associate it with something. Like if you're Greek, you probably associate it with different things than like pizza, but like most Americans, they smell oregano, which is really funny because you know how people in the UK say it?
No.
They say it oregano.
Or
Which I
oregano.
think is so it's really interesting. So the company that makes my pizza oven, they'll do videos, and the guy, one of the chefs that they have do demonstrations, he goes, "Oh, we get some oregano."
He
And
got
I don't know,
a stop
it's funny.
sign in that spice. He got a stop sign
Yeah.
in there. Well, when it comes to a good pizza, though, how do you prefer your pizza? Because everyone likes it differently. I like a nice thick crust, but I like it hard. I don't like it soft, like to the point where it's like a sock.
So it's interesting. So like it depends on the only type of pizza that is not pizza that I don't like is a Chicago deep dish. That is not fucking pizza.
How
Fight
is it
me.
not
I don't
pizza?
care. Because it's a goddamn casserole.
Okay, that's true. It is
So because
literally
here's
like
the
lasagna.
thing.
It is literally
It's
like lasagna.
exactly. It's literally a pizza pot pie is the way I look at it. And because if you look at like for instance, the pizza that I'm doing right now, it's called a Detroit style pizza, so it's done in a square pan. But if you look at that, so someone will go, well, that's the same. Why is that not a casserole? And I'm like, because that's topping on top of bread instead of like the bread coming all the way around. Like I don't know. Like I've never had a good Chicago style. I mean, I've had some places that are supposed to be good, and it's just not pizza to me. Like I'm a New York style kind of guy, and then that translates into the Neapolitan style because that's what New York style was kind of based off of, was a more Americanized version of like Neapolitan, and then there's Roman style, and there's all these different styles that kind of like made a hybrid of New York, and that's why I really like New York style because it is the most authentic American Italian American pizza, if that makes sense. It draws most of its influences from original Italian pizza,
Well,
So when it comes,
what makes a classic New York pizza? Is it just the classic American? More like the whole factor is it's just a giant triangle? Like I have no clue what you mean by New York style.
so like New York style is like where it's like a real thin crust. They're generally sold in really, in New York, you get like slices, like really big triangle slices. Like I would say, like, we ever had Costco pizza? Do you guys have Costco's out there?
Yeah, I got Costco.
So like you guys, so imagine that, but like thinner, and like if it's good pizza, it's like it's better than Costco. Don't get me wrong, Costco's is good, but like
What about the crust though? How thin are we talking about here? Because there's a pizza company down here called Lito's Pizza, and they make theirs like fucking paper, and I can't eat that.
so I don't like cracker thin. I don't like that either.
Yeah,
And
that's
that's
terrible.
more like St. Louis style is like cracker style, and especially if they cut it into squares, that's St. Louis style.
Yeah, why are you doing it? It's got to be cut into triangles. You have it cut into squares. I don't know where to grab. Next, thing you know, you grab an end piece or you grab a middle piece, and someone's complaining.
Right. But to go back to your question about how I like my pizza, it really depends. Like I like every type of pizza except for Chicago deep dish, and it's kind of like, but it just depends on what I'm in the mood for. You know what I mean? Like I basically make Neapolitan at home. That's what I do now, and then I'm getting into the Detroit style pizza because I recently got the pan and I got a book because I got interested in doing that. But Yeah, I don't know. I mean, my favorite pizza is my Neapolitan dough, San Marzano tomato sauce. It's all homemade from scratch too. And then I use imported buffalo mozzarella, buffalo milks mozzarella, and then really nice cup and char pepperoni, where like you know what I'm talking about, where they cup up into little like cups of oily goodness. And then a house homemade pickled jalapenos, and then bake that, and then finish it with a habanero infused hot honey. That's like the best pizza ever
Would
to
you
me.
would you say that like your experience kind of just with pizza making in general, kind of you start judging a little bit more quality when it comes to going out and getting a pizza? I find that like
I don't go get pizza anymore.
why, dude? You don't order Domino's or something?
No, if I'm ordering Domino's, I'm getting their like chicken and stuff because it's hard, man. You know, it's like you eat so well. Like I just cook so well. Like me and my girlfriend went out to a steak place like 6 months ago, and like you know it was like 80-100 bucks, and it was just like both of us just kind of looked at each other and were like, yeah, you could cook this way better at home for a fraction of the price. You know, and it just kind of goes back like you know good food and it's interesting. It's really interesting how all this is tying into each other. So like good food just takes time. And so that's a big disconnect that I think people have from restaurants. So like when you get a fried chicken sandwich at a restaurant, most people think that you can recreate that at home by just getting a bun, maybe some lettuce, some mayonnaise, getting some chicken, getting maybe an egg or buttermilk and some flour, and then maybe a little bit of salt and pepper or whatever, and just throw that shit together and it's going to taste as good. But it doesn't, because most people don't realize that fried chicken sandwich that took them 15 minutes to make to get to you, that took them 2 days of processes to make.
Well, you want to I see now this is a big question because you want to talk about the convenience factor of it. It's why people call ahead and shit too to make sure their pizza comes out right as soon as they get there. But honestly, I've been to some pizza places in Pennsylvania, some like local shops and stuff. They have the ones that are sitting out like on display and shit, and people just grab that. I'm like, no, can you make mine from the back? Like, I don't want to be that guy, but like, I'll be more than happy to wait the extra 45 minutes or so to have an actual nice, good slice of pizza.
Well, the thing about those slices is I get where you're coming from, but don't worry about those too much. Obviously, if it's a good pizza shop, because the place that I used to work at, they would do slices too. And what they do is they make an extra, like a bigger than you can order pizza. So the slices are extra big, and then they cook it like 80% of the way. And then they pop it back in the oven generally when you order it, to refresh it and finish the cooking. So it does taste like fresh pizza if it's a good pizza place, of course.
Now,
And
what quality though? We talked about the best type of pizza that you like. Do you prefer the New York style a little bit? Now, when it comes to the overall quality, what do you judge most about a pizza? Like I said, for me, it's the crust. I don't really care.
yeah,
I'm not a big fan. It doesn't matter when it comes to the cheese. I know people get a little tense when it comes to putting pineapple on it. Honestly, if it works, it works. If you put ranch on it, I have some questions, but I'm not gonna do it. But you can do it.
see, that's funny. So I actually make an amazing from scratch buttermilk ranch that I will dip my pizza into. That is amazing. But I'm not going to put like Hidden Valley. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I've seen people do that, and it does make me curdle a little bit to my stomach.
Yeah, no, it has to be a good homemade from scratch ranch. And you would get like in the Mary's that I worked at, they would do all their dressings from scratch. They had a fire ranch dressing that you could dip your pizza into. Oh, it's hella good. But anyway, to answer your question, yeah, I mean the dough, and you kind of learn this as you make pizza, and it's interesting that you pick that up without even having the experience. Is that dough really is what matters. If you don't have a good dough, nothing else really matters. And because it is, it's like it doesn't matter if everything in your boat, if you have a boat and everything on the inside is great, but then you don't have a secure hull and there's holes, or it's not going to be able to withstand the weather conditions or something like that, your boat's going to fall apart. Same thing with pizza. If you don't have a great dough to carry everything else, to carry the cheese, to carry the toppings, to carry any finishing items, it's just not, it's just not going to be a good pizza. And that's like when you go to like, Little Caesars and places that do like really fast doughs with cheap flour and that kind of stuff. I mean, you do taste a difference, and it's a texture difference. And, it's interesting. I think texture is actually probably one of the most important things. And like, I saw this interesting article about how if food didn't have texture, it would be really weird. Like our taste buds would change. Like we would taste things differently. Like texture is such a huge part of food and people don't even realize it.
It's crazy because pizza is probably one of the only forms of food that you can eat refrigerated. You know what I mean? Like it's like one of the best things to eat after it's like, a lot of people are like, oh, you got to toss it out after you cook it or something. It's like pizza, you can just put in the fridge and eat a couple days later.
But Neapolitan pizza, you have to heat it up. I will say Neapolitan pizza, no good cold.
Is that just because all the flavors kind of get enriched when it's heated up?
It's just, again, it goes back to texture. The texture, so the dough, so Neapolitan, so here's the thing. With most American pizza places, they're doing two things to their dough. They're putting oil or fat, oil is a fat, but, oil or some other type of fat, and they're more than likely putting in some type of dough conditioner. And what that does is it helps the shelf life. So so my pizza dough is literally just Italian flour, water, yeast, and salt. And that's it. And I use Himalayan sea salt. And it's like, and so there's just nothing in that dough the next day to keep it like supple and soft. And that's where like the fat and the conditioners and that kind of stuff comes in. That is in most American pizza places and pizza doughs and that kind of stuff.
What do you consider, I would say, like your thoughts on maybe your style? Like, have you figured out what it is yet? Like, just being able to experience and kind of understand pizza a little bit more. Have you tried to find that you have a unique kind of flavor to it? I mean, you talk about getting your own ingredients too. You said homemade. That's a big quality when it comes into tasting a pizza.
Definitely. And so, I mean, yeah, I have, I'm contemporary Neapolitan, and that's how I like to say. So I follow the guidelines of the association, like Veracci Napolitana or whatever. It's like the association in Italy that sets the guidelines for what is a true Neapolitan pizza according to, history and legend and that kind of stuff. So that's why I say I'm a contemporary. So I follow a lot of those guidelines, but I also might do things that they don't. And maybe I do a longer fermentation for my dough. I add a starter, the poolish, like I was talking about, the pre-ferment. I do toppings that aren't necessarily traditional. I may stretch it in a way like, the guidelines literally have guidelines regarding how thick the crust can be at the edge and in the middle and all this kind of stuff. And so it's like, I don't follow that necessarily, but I follow a lot of the guidelines, the flour, water, salt, yeast, the right oven temperature, using the San Marzano imported tomatoes, using the right type of flour. There's a lot that I do follow, but I find my own, I tweak it in my own ways when I feel the need to.
Now, if I had to ask you what's your most memorable experience with pizza, we all got one. So what's one that you really, really kind of sticks out into your mind? I know it sounds stupid because it's pizza.
No.
But
I'm not laughing at your question. You're going to laugh at this because of what we were just talking about. So I remember I used to play soccer when I was a kid. And so I remember going with the soccer team to go
Pizza Hut.
and no, it wasn't Pizza Hut.
That was a thing back in the day, though. Don't knock it. Every time you won a game or a sports game, like a baseball game or something, you went right to Pizza Hut afterwards.
Sorry, I just got a text and got distracted. So my most memorable pizza is I was at that dinner with the pizza, and one of my teammates or a friend or something like that was dipping his pizza in ranch. And I thought it was like the most weird, gross thing. And then I tried it there and I was like, wait a minute, this is delicious.
Savagery.
Is my most memorable pizza. You know what I mean? Just the most, I just will always remember that for some reason. I don't know why, but
See, this is the thing, because you mentioned Uber earlier, and I have a problem with Uber on the concept of it gives people too much freedom. I remember being a kid ordering, like getting everybody's order together from a pizza place. Nobody, if anybody, like everybody was like, all right, what are we getting? I don't know, man. If I'm feeling Domino's, man, I'd rather go to Pizza Hut. It's like, well, 4 out of 5 of us want Domino's, so we're ordering fucking Domino's. There was no going to a Chinese steakhouse. There was none of that and getting like 30 different items from 30 different places till it pops up at your door. But that conversation, like my most memorable experience, I talked about inviting a pizza guy into my house, when I was playing in the middle of getting a Vidmaster achievement on Halo 3 ODST. So I invited him in and we only had $17 to pay for like the $23 or $24 pizza with like drinks and stuff. And the guy just looked at it, saw a bunch of kids, and he just took the 17 and went out the door, man, grabbed a slice for himself too. it was one of like the most memorable things too. I think that's the connection that really kind of restored my faith a little bit when it comes to anywhere I'm going to order is going to be Domino's. Like having experiences like that too. I mean, how many times you get an experience when you go out somewhere and the food was just shit and it overall ruins the place?
Yeah, no, totally. Or the opposite of when the food is great, but the waiter is shit, and then something happens that makes it better. Like, it's a really funny story. So in Lake Tahoe, there's a place. My parents have a house up there, and so that we can go to like during the summer and that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, let's do it. I'm down.
And so there was this restaurant, and so my girlfriend and I go, we order, and then like long story short, like the server just sucked that night. Like it was so bad, and like, we eventually complained. Like we're not the type of people to complain, but like he kept leaving us. We kept like getting forgotten about. It was just he didn't give a shit, and so we mentioned something to the manager, and then he's like, okay, well here, let me go I'll give you a free dessert, and it was the best what was it? Best bread pudding we've ever had. We get it like every time we go up there now. And it was so funny because eventually after we ate the dessert, we were still waiting for our server. Hadn't seen him in probably 15 or 20 minutes. And then we kind of just, me and my girlfriend both just kind of give a look to the manager because we saw him. We knew he was the manager and he just signals us. He just kind of like shakes his head and just signals us to go. Like, meal is on us, just go. I'll always remember that. And it's so funny because if the manager hadn't have done that, we probably would have never gone back there. You know, but now we make a point to go every single time we're up there for at least dessert because that manager, like, you know, I don't judge restaurants on mistakes that they make. I judge them on how they fix them.
Yeah, see, that's funny because I had that same experience at a McDonald's. We had a McDonald's that was close by to my high school, so it was closing down. They were changing locations, and they had one lady working in there at like the last night it was open. So it's around like 9 p.m. There's nobody in the parking lot. They literally moved out all of the cooking stuff, so she only had like one machine in there, and it was just her by herself. And nobody's like around. Me and my buddy just pulled in the drive-through. We waited 30 minutes for a regular coffee with some caramel in it. 2 coffees,
Wow.
that's it. 30 minutes. She's running around all over the place trying to do this. And I'm like, dude, she's getting our drinks ready. She hasn't even taken my money yet. We've been waiting so long. I'm just going to drive off after she hands me the drinks. Like, I'm not even going to pay for these, even though they're $1 each. And as soon as she approaches the window, she drops them both and just goes, son of a bitch, and just starts like walking around, like screaming and yelling. She had to go outside, I guess, and get a cigarette or something. But we're sitting there like, what the fuck is going on right now? Like, we're lying.
Right.
We're like laughing and everything. And then she came back. She gave us these 2 drinks. She's like, these are on the house. I'm sorry about that. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of the night. And I'm like,
That's hilarious.
I was like, I hope your day gets better. But those experiences, though, like that's stuff we're missing out on when we spend a lot of our times on our phone and we become disconnected too.
Yeah. No, it's interesting, like the way phones have, and phones are so new too, at least smartphones, and the way that they've changed society in such a quick way. Yeah.
How food is becoming so popular that people like that make pizza like yourself can practically thrive right now. Like, you know how much a good pizza, even if it might taste like crap, people are just there for the pictures, it seems like.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. Instagram and Facebook and all these internet platforms have given people, you know, an outlet for their hustle in a way that did not exist before
Now,
in the best way, you know.
when it comes to the overall cooking quality, what have you really kind of started to figure out with just cooking a pizza in general? Like, what's your process? Like, all I know, like you say, you know, you cook, you make pizza. Immediately, I start thinking you know, you put on this giant mustache and you start grabbing some dough and throwing it around the kitchen, literally beating the shit out of this dough.
So, I mean, so my process, so like, let's say I want pizza on Saturday. So Friday morning, I'm going to start what's called a poolish, which I've talked about. And what that is you take a portion of your flour that you would use, and then most or all of the yeast that you would use, and then you take a portion of the water too. You mix that together, and you let that sit all day. So I'll do that at like 8 or 9 in the morning, and then I'll come back at, you know, like 6 or 7, and then I'll add that into the dough. Or into the rest of the flour with the salt and the rest of the water and any yeast or anything like that. And then I do that by hand, generally speaking, mix it completely by hand from start to finish. And then I let that sit or ferment until probably about like say like 11, between 10 and 1 the next day, depending on how my day's going and what time I want pizza. And then I divide it, make that into balls, and then I let that sit again for another 6 to 8 hours, depending on how warm it is. And then I use it. So it's like a 2-day I don't know, it's like a 2-day process, but
What do you think
makes really good dough.
you qualify more? You care more about the dough? Like, we're talking about the importance. We talked about the dough part, but I feel like, a lot of what really can captivate a good pizza too is having a really, really unique sauce in a way. Like, people that talk about pizza with love or homemade recipe, like throwing that into a pizza, if you really sit there and enjoy it, you can actually taste the quality of it too. I mean, I've been to some local pizza joints down here, and a lot of them are pretty crappy. Mostly the amount of grease that is still on the pizza, like where you have to take a fucking napkin and you just place it on top of the pizza and soak it up and throw it away.
Well, and most people just don't here's the thing. Most people don't understand what good pizza is. They just don't. They've never had good pizza. They've had Domino's. They've had
I've
Pizza
had
Hut,
Chuck
they've
E.
had,
Cheese, damn it.
yeah, it's like they think they know what pizza is until they are shown that they don't. And that's the whole saying of ignorance is bliss and that kind of stuff. And it's so true, because it's like, if you've never had, like, it's actually really funny. So it was like, I saw this thing where Tyler, the Creator, that guy, it's a rapper. So he was having this like candid conversation. He's like, what if like these people, like, these white, he's talking about racism. He's like, what if these white people like really aren't like that racist, but like, what if like all they ever see is like, people of color being represented in a criminal way on, like, in shows and on the news and all this kind of stuff. So that's what they see, that's what they hear, that's what they quote unquote know. And it was just crazy to think, because it's like of how much like influence something like that can have, whether it's what he's talking about, whether it's food, like whether you've never had like truly good food or anything like that. It's like if someone has only ever had KFC and that's their idea of fried chicken, if you take them to a high-end restaurant, you serve them my fried chicken, they're gonna be like, wait, what have I been eating all these years?
Well, it's the same thing. It's really weird how people can make food reviews and they can sit there and, someone can read it and be like, oh, well, guess what? I guess this person says it tastes terrible. I'm never going to eat it. It's like, why don't you experience it for yourself? You never know if you're going to like what they don't like.
Yeah, like I always look for a pattern, especially Yelp reviews and stuff. If like 5 reviews that are recent in a row are like, this is all terrible, it's probably not great. But if it's just, you can pretty much tell, like, as someone who's worked in the industry, whether it be retail or food service industry, you can kind of tell when someone is like, okay, that was you. That was you being a little bitch and not getting what you want. You know what I mean? And then complaining about it and being entitled because you're an American. You're American.
Yeah, if 5 people buy toilet paper and all 5 of them get, a burning asshole, or they get some type of anal fissure or something, and then I'm going to buy it and I'm going to try it for myself, mostly because that sounds interesting and I can probably get a story out of it.
I can probably get a nice lawsuit out of that.
Now, what's your worst thing that you've learned doing pizza? What's the hardest thing? Like, I mean, it feels like just the overall process when it comes to how many different things you have to really be attentive to when it comes to making it.
Consistency.
Okay.
Because I do room temperature fermentation, it's always kind of, the dough is always changing. No 2 pizzas I make are exactly alike.
So are you talking about you preheating your house to like 75 degrees?
What do you mean?
You said room temperature, so I'm guessing you're preheating your house. As a pizza joke, I guess it slipped through the cracks, or slipped through the dough, I would say.
Yeah, that's a good one. No, I mean, I just, and that's the thing is, like, I have a little calculator that I use, like, it's a pizza ingredient calculator that's really useful. And you can change the temperature, but, it's like, for instance, when I make my dough and I knead it. So when you're kneading it, you're putting, you're moving it around, you're turning it into itself and all that kind of stuff. And you're doing motion, when motion obviously can cause heat. So like, I'll take the internal temperature of the dough when I make it, and it's like 80 degrees Fahrenheit, but then I let it sit for 12 hours in a 71 degree room. And then it gets to be about 71 degrees. So it's just interesting because it's the fermentation is happening quicker while it's still at that higher temperature. It's going down, temperature's going down, obviously. So there's all these factors, and especially like, if I have my heater on or if I have the air conditioning on, like, it's just getting consistency with the dough and learning like what it should look like, when it doesn't act right, like what learning what happened, like troubleshooting, I think is just the biggest thing that you learn that comes with experience. And that's the biggest thing that people don't think about is I can show you how to do it. I can give you my recipe, but if you don't know how to troubleshoot things, like if I'm not there or something like that, like just little things that you learn just doing it over and over and over again, you know?
Now, what's your worst pizza experience? We talked about one of the most memorable ones. What's your worst? Look, I can tell you straight up, I've had a pizza that had a really nice thick crust to it. It looked like it was going to be so enjoyable, and I was ready. And I took this pizza home. I was like, shit, when I get home, I'm going to tear into this bad boy. It's going to be the best thing I've ever had in my entire life. I bite into it, and the crust is just empty. The inside felt hollow. Like I was like, this just ruined everything.
Of the crust, or?
Yeah, just the crust, the end piece of the pizza, that whole thing. They're supposed to have like it looked fluff, like it looked like it was going to be a
Well,
nice thick
you've
bite.
seen some of the pizzas that I've like my crust shots. Like my crusts are all air. That's like the style.
It's like false flag, dude. That's what it is. It's false. It's some David Copperfield shit, man. I see that. I'm like, oh man, I just bit into a whole thing of air. Literally, where you bite into it, it's like.
Those are my favorite parts.
You like the airy crust?
Oh, I love the airy crust. Yeah, no, that's the best.
I see. I like the crust part. I'm not a big I don't eat a lot of the I don't know. I guess I don't really eat a lot of pizza, but when it comes to eating the pizza, I need to have the crust fat factor to it, man. I'm telling you, it's what really makes the pizza too. Because I've seen pizzas like that have a really small thin crust, like that Lido's pizza, little square, like thin ones. The cheese can barely stay on the thing. Like I want something that is one slice is a legit slice, something that's like not drooping all the way off the thing, but enough to where it's like it's delicious and you can actually get the taste out of it.
Well, and it's interesting too because American pizza is always so all about being crispy, but that's not Neapolitan. Neapolitan's very soft. I mean, like there's a technique called a wallet fold when you are eating Neapolitan pizza where you fold the tip into the crust because it's so soft and it's generally kind of not watery, but it's a moister, because when you cook something in a 600 degree oven, like in New York style, and you cook it or like a Domino's, which is per conveyor, and there's heat right above it, the moisture is going to evaporate, and so that's why when you get in New York, the cheese is not watery, but when you get like a Neapolitan style, especially because you're using fresh mozzarella and fresh buffalo mozzarella and that kind of stuff, it can be like very soft and watery. And it's interesting that I like it so much because I used to love the New York style so much. So it's like, I don't know. It's just the flavor of dough for like slowly fermented 24 plus hours and cooked really hot and fast. I mean, it's just a combination that you just can't beat.
You can judge a lot about a person by the way they eat their pizza. I mean, when I was a kid, you used to, when it was so hot, you used to cut it up with a fork in the beginning, and then.
So that's traditional.
That's traditional to eat pizza.
In Italy, Neapolitan pizza is a knife and fork affair.
That's nuts, man. See, I fold mine up like a taco.
Yeah, no, that's kind of what I was talking about a second ago. Yeah, like where you do the fold and then you can fold up the middle a little bit too, if you need. But yeah, no, it's a knife and fork. And so when people are like, I'm guilty of it too. But until I learned about this style and the origins and everything, I would be like, oh, what are you doing eating with the knife and fork? But then you realize, you go, oh wait, that's how they've done it for thousands of years or hundreds of years or whatever.
It seems like
thousands.
Pizza's meant to be sloppy, but I think it's meant to be eaten in a more, I guess, professional manner if it comes to the fork and knife.
Well, and that's the thing is that a lot of Neapolitan places. So like there's two ways that there's two main ways I think that Neapolitan pizza is served. It's like with the sit down fork and knife, or it basically means a wallet. And what they do is they take a Neapolitan pizza, they fold it in half, and then they fold it again in half, and then you eat it as a street food walking.
Okay, you have to explain that one more time.
So like imagine you're looking at a circular pizza right now, right? So lengthwise, you're gonna, like horizontally, you're gonna fold it, right? And then you're gonna fold it one more time onto itself, so it's like four squares, but it's all you. But you don't cut it. And then someone would wrap it. It's like a cone almost, and then you would eat it like that. Like it's crazy.
It's not fucking origami. Why are we doing?
Because it's a street food. It makes it a street food.
Okay.
You
All
know,
right.
it's much easier to eat a whole pizza like that than it is to have a box with pizza that you're eating slices out of.
Okay. I guess
Yeah,
that.
it's really interesting. You know, like the whole pizza culture in Italy is fascinating.
Now, would you say that out of all the type of things like with there's pizza in general, what's like? Are you trying to turn this into a business, or what are you trying to do
Yeah.
here?
So I've already done some private catering. I've gotten business cards. I'm just figuring out. There's just a lot of bureaucracy kind of stuff with getting permits and doing totally public. I mean, I can do private right now, and it's all good.
Have you thought about a
It's just
restaurant name?
yeah, it's my page
That-
name,
That's
the
what. That's
Novecentogradi, because it means 900 degrees in Italian.
okay. Novecentogradi. I would have been like something a little bit catchy. You know what I mean? Like like baked pizzas. I don't know. I can't think of one on the spot right now.
No, names are really hard. And actually, there's another endeavor that I'm working on right now. Have you ever had a Nashville hot chicken sandwich?
I have not.
So basically, it's like a chicken breast or chicken thigh or whatever, just a piece of chicken, breaded, marinated, breaded, and fried, and then they take cooking oil like canola oil or lard and render it, and then they liquefy it, and then they put like a very spicy like cayenne paprika and some other stuff seasoning blend, and then they dip the hot chicken as it comes out of the fryer in the oil blend, and then they dust it with that same blend. It's like it's like so spicy, it's so flavorful, it's so good. And so another little business venture that I'm getting going is called hot cock chicken.
Dude, you gotta just combine the two, make a pizza slash fried chicken joint.
Well, it's funny. So today I got someone picking up one of those Detroit pizzas that I'm making right now, and then I had Nashville hot chicken last night for dinner, and I have some leftover. So I'm just going to use some of that leftover chicken from that and put it on his pizzas.
Damn, man.
Since he
Caring
doesn't
for
eat
the
pork, so
customer.
yeah.
What about okay, what's the craziest things you've ever combined on a pizza?
I haven't done like too many crazy things. Like I know there's on some people on like my group, there's a guy that does like a Chinese a Chinese duck hoisin sauce pizza with like green onions and I think cucumbers and that kind of stuff. And it's like that always looks really interesting.
Bruh, there's this pizza place that they started doing Nutella pizza. That is the craziest
Yeah.
combination I have ever heard of in my entire life.
Yeah, I've done that before where you're putting a hell on the pizza. That's super good. I guess the craziest one that I'll do is I call it my bacon blue, and I make a homemade balsamic bacon onion jam where you cook bacon and onion down for a long time, and then with some brown sugar and balsamic and all that good stuff. And then I would put that on a pizza with really good blue cheese and tomato sauce, and then pretty much that would be it. And I had this one guy I was doing events every other week for a few months there, and I had this guy who was always there, and every single time he'd see me setting up, he's like, let me pay for my pizza right now so you don't sell out. And he would get a bacon blue every single time. So that's probably the craziest, most untraditional one that I've ever done, but people will go nuts out there. And like, speaking of crazy combos, you would never guess this. So one of the most popular pizzas in Italy is hot dogs and French fries. It's like a really popular pizza with kids, obviously, but I think they call it like the Americano or something like that. You know, it's just really interesting. You never guess that.
People started doing weird combinations. They started adding stuff like they put like grilled chili cheese fries on top of their pizza. I found that like if you start, if you're cooking and making the cheese, if you actually throw some of the toppings in with the cheese and mix it in there, it makes it a little bit better when it goes onto the pizza. I mean, most casual pizza places just sprinkle it up on top.
Yeah, I mean, there's usually a reason. You'd be surprised. That's what I learned at and I've learned this myself just through my own pizza cooking. But like one thing I learned at Mary's is like, there's generally a pretty good reason for the toppings, like the order the toppings are put in, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but which toppings go first? I'm guessing it would probably be more of the meats, and then we'd go into like vegetables and stuff.
It depends on the pizza and what else is on the pizza. You know what I mean? Some pizzas you want to put some pizzas I'll put sauce, cheese, and then veggies, and then pepperoni down. Sometimes I'll put pepperoni, cheese, and then veggie. It just really depends on, kind of what pizza you're making, what all the toppings you have together are, and you know what I mean?
What are your thoughts on a cauliflower pizza?
It's hard. because I don't like. I think it should be called cauliflower flatbread. You know what I mean? Like it's not
Yeah, it seems
pizza.
more like a flatbread than a pizza.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, though, it's kind of hypocritical to me to say that because a pizza is just a yeasted flatbread with fucking food on it, the toppings and shit. You know what I mean? Like,
But it's like the overall quality too. Like you got to look at like if you want to talk about like a Chicago deep dish pizza, that's something that could be served in a bowl. It's so much that it's literally pouring off the sides. Where afterwards you have to grab a fork and then pick up the rest of it or eat it like with a that way like a.
I mean,
soup or
that's why I think it's a casserole because you don't eat Chicago with your hands. It's not, you know what I mean? Obviously, I know Neapolitan traditionally is eaten with a knife and fork, but you can still eat it with your hands, like like pizza.
Well, this Nutella pizza I was talking about, I never knew. Like, I knew people dump Nutella on pizza, but they literally replaced the pizza sauce and the cheese with Nutella, and then cut up banana and put it on top of
Yeah.
it. And I'm like, I don't see how that combination would go good together. I'm guessing maybe just the bread and then the chocolate, but
Yeah, I mean, it's like Nutella and toast is good, and bread dough is not that different than pizza dough.
I'm not a
what I
fan
mean?
of Nutella.
Fair enough. You're probably one of the minority
Look,
and not liking it.
once I saw you could buy like a 20-pound tub of it at Costco, I was like, all right, I'm good. I'm all right.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. So, like, speaking of large things, so I buy my flour in 55-pound sacks, like food service sacks, because it saves me like a ridiculous amount of money, and I just back seal it or keep it in like food service containers and
Hey,
stuff.
you're saving money, and you're saving money on the gym.
No, yeah, I mean, it's definitely like fucking. It's if off Amazon or whatever, it would cost like I'm probably saving at least half by buying the 55-pound bags at the place that I do. It's like a 2 hour plus round trip to get there, but I only have to go once every 6 months or something like that.
Now, even when it does come to like getting your own vegetables and stuff, do you tend to go out to the market and try and kind of find like maybe local stands to get your own ingredients?
I haven't at the time being. I mean, it's just because I actually, like I said, I worked at a farmer's market, so like I would love. It's just hard to plan it. You know what I mean? And I hate wasting stuff. Like I hate wasting food. So it's like I feel like if I was better at planning my meals throughout the week, I would go to this market on Sundays. Like I would go today and get all my stuff for the week. But I just go to my Safeway grocery store that's right down the street from me.
Now, I've created a. Have you ever heard of a leftover pizza?
Like just whatever you have on hand or whatever.
Exactly, dude. Now you can get creative with some shit like that, man. You can find some stuff in there, like using everything that's in your refrigerator or something. There's some
Yeah.
good quality when it does come up to it, though.
What's that?
I said it's some good quality when it comes up to it, though. Like the whole aspect of being able to create your own pizza just using out of basic essentials that you have in the fridge. Like I think everybody thinks like when you're going to make pizza or something, they think that's going to be this $1,000 venture into making their own thing. And I'm like, you can honestly use a lot of essential ingredients that you probably have just lying around the house.
Yeah, some of it might take a little bit of like cooking. Like if you have like a can of tomatoes, you should probably like do something with it so it'll taste better. But I don't know. I'm kind of a food. Because I cook so well, I've become kind of a food snob. Where it's like it's always worth the extra money to get nicer food. It's always worth the trip to the store to get the ingredients that you need.
Well, you want it to be a good time too. I think a lot of people are just getting happy with getting fast food to the point where it's like, let's try and wake
Convenience,
up.
like we were talking about.
Yeah, it's like let's try and wake up and realize like it's gonna suck cooking something for 45 minutes and then 30 minutes in, you're like, fuck, I just want to grab a bite of this now, but you gotta wait. That waiting sometimes makes it taste a lot better.
Well, dude, one of my favorite things is like like I'll be cooking sauce and my girlfriend will come home from work and I'll be like, oh, doesn't it smell good? She's like, oh yeah, it does smell good. And like I was cooking a pizza last weekend for someone and we weren't eating it and she was hungry and she's like, oh, it smells so good. It's like house smells from cooking like are so good. Like they're the best,
Yeah, you want something that's like as soon as you walk in the door, you're like, fuck, let's open it up now.
Let's eat. Yeah.
That's why it makes it so hard if you grab a pizza or something from a place and then you try and bring it home because half the time you're just staring at the box sexually, like I'm gonna fucking open you up.
Dude, I know when I get Indian food, that's always what happens to me too.
Now, just with kind of experiencing different tastes and kind of just knowing the basic knowledge and being more of a food snob, how do you typically judge a pizza if you go out and tend to have one? How would you typically come across being able to like, is this a good pizza or not? Would you look at the bread first? Would you look at the idea of it? Because I know a lot of people won't eat something that looks like diarrhea on a plate.
Well, there's actually a really great show about that kind of stuff called Ugly Delicious by David Chang. It's on Netflix. Check it out. Anyone listening should check it out too. It's a great show. But I just think it depends on what style. Like if I'm going to a Neapolitan place, like I'm going to get the margarita, because if they can't make a good margarita, a margarita pizza is sauce, mozzarella, basil, olive oil. It's based off of Queen Margherita in like the 1700s in Naples. She wanted a pizza that represented the Italian flag. So you had the red, white, and green.
I'm glad you
Uh,
explained that because as soon as you said margarita pizza, I thought someone was pouring like margaritas all over a pizza.
and it's interesting too, because a margarita, like it's like a Spanish margarita drink, is MARG fucking, I think it's ARITA, and then the pizza is MAG HERITA. So it's spelled
Trickery.
differently too. Yeah, so
It's like
obviously
when
it's
they
based
put
off
an
of
it's like when they put an accent over the letter and you got to pronounce it differently.
right. So yeah, I mean, and that goes for anyone. Like if you go to any pizza place, especially a Neapolitan place, and they can't do a good margarita, just don't waste your time there, because that pizza will showcase the quality of every individual part: the dough, the sauce they're using, the cheese they're using, and the freshness of their produce, i.e., the basil. And then after that, I mean, it's seriously, man, I can't even, like, it's been like 2 years since I've gone out for pizza. There was one time I did at a place I used to go to, like when I liked, or before I started making my own pizzas. And then I went there after like 6 months of making my own. I didn't really like it anymore because I'm so used to my own pizzas,
It's because you
you know?
understand how much time it actually takes to go into a pizza and how to actually make it taste good. Then now you judge it differently because you know what it's like because you've been involved around it.
Yeah, no, I mean, once you start to understand, I mean, anything, whether it's food or a hobby or, science or politics, I mean, you just have that better understanding of it, what goes into the whole thing. And that's another thing too. Like people, sorry to interrupt you. It's like people, they'll make, not to me, but I've seen it. And it's like, there's this really great fried chicken sandwich place in Oakland, California called World Famous Hot Boys. Anyone in the Bay Area listening, go there. Best fucking fried chicken. And people, they charge $12 for a chicken sandwich, and like it's worth every fucking penny to me. Like it's so good, and it's like good people who run the shop, and it's like, they're small business, like it's their first place, they're just trying to make it happen. And some people like be like, oh, they're charging $12 for a chicken sandwich, and I'm like, yeah, if you had any fucking idea what it costs to run a restaurant, especially in the Bay Area, you wouldn't be saying that.
Yeah, dude.
And
I
it's
went
like,
to this look, I went to this place in College Park, Maryland called Ratsey's. That's not a place you want to go if you're getting food in general, a place called Ratsey's, but it was 3 o'clock in the morning, concert was over with. I was not sober, so I was like, hey, you know what? That sounds like a
yeah,
good option. It's open. Screw it.
it's open and I need food, let's do it.
So I went in there and I was looking, I was like, it's $5.99 for a slice of pizza. I was
It's
like,
ridiculous.
that better be a beautiful slice. But you're hungry, you'll pay it. I ordered it and he's like, it's gonna be 15 minutes. I'm like, I'm hungry now. And he's like, 15 minutes. He makes this pizza, and when I get this slice, I shit you not, it is the size of a pizza box top. Like it's a full on, like he gives me one of those gigantic, like the things you would put a full pizza on as a plate. He's like, there you go. I'm like, now I see why it's $5.99. Best pizza of my entire life.
That's good. I mean, if the quality and the size is there, that's not ridiculous. But if you're getting like 2 Domino slices or whatever equivalent for $6, I don't think so.
I'm telling you, man, don't knock that $7.99 2 medium pizza with a 2 liter of Coke combo. That got me through my high school years. But it was crazy because it was an Italian guy that made the pizza for me, an older Italian guy, which I think goes into a lot of like why people judge a pizza place is based on who works there. You go to a Chinese restaurant or you want authentic Chinese food, you go to a place that has people that are Chinese working there.
Dude, if I go to like, that's why I love my local Chinese spot, because like literally every single person who works there is Chinese or Asian of some sort. I'm assuming they're all Chinese, but Yeah, like literally every single person who works there.
I don't even order off the menu anymore. I just say, you know what's good, just give it to me. I don't care. I just
Well,
walk in and I'm
and
like, how much?
yeah, and it's funny. I'll go to that place, and like a few of the women who work there know me by name, and they'll go, "Oh, well, what you have today?" You know, they'll be like, "Do you want this, 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 or this?" Because that's all I ever get.
They're so quick too. I have a local Chinese place. I walked in there and it's right next to a laundromat. And I was like, yeah, I was like, I'm just gonna put in this order, and they're like rushing me out the door like 10 minutes, and then they just, they want everything done quick. And I walk over, and I'm like, well, while I'm waiting, I'll go get something that I had to go pick up from the laundromat. Walk over to the laundromat, it's the same fucking woman.
That's hilarious.
I figured out that they actually own 3 businesses side by side where like there's no back wall, so all they do is just walk right over to the next side.
That's so funny.
I was like, this is a mob joint for sure. You would think it would just be with Italian people, not dealing with like the triads or something.
That's super funny.
Well, I really appreciate you, Austin, coming out and doing the podcast, man.
Yeah, no, it was interesting talking to you, and definitely can always talk about pizza and life and food and all that other good stuff.
I want to give you here a minute at the end to kind of promote your Instagram page and your business too.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm in the Bay Area. Like I said, I'm available for private catering, group stuff, anything you need. My page is Novecentogradi, which is Novecento, and then next or Novecento, and then Gradi, which is Gradi. And yeah, like I said, available for anything, Neapolitan pizza. And then I also have another business I'm starting, which is hot cock chicken. So hot cock, one word, chicken, Nashville hot chicken sandwiches. Everything I do is always homemade from scratch and fresh to order. So
You might want to be careful with the hot cock chicken thing. It's kind of like that's another thing on the internet that you need to be 18 and up to go into. Well, thanks so much for listening to this episode of Out of the Blank podcast, and stay tuned for our next episode.